Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Pan-African Peace Symposium 2019. We begin the proceedings with the recitation from the Holy Quran. And if I can just humbly request our brother, Mr. Mansour Abiola Osota, to do the recitation in Arabic, and then Ibrahim Bonsu to do the English translation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأوفوا بعهد الله إذا عاهدتم ولا تنقضوا الأيمان بعد توكيدها وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون ولا تكونوا كالتي نقضت غزلها من بعد قوة أنكاثا تتخذون أيمانكم دخلا بينكم أن تكون أمة هي أربى من أمة إنما يبلوكم الله به وليبينن لكم يوم القيامة ما كنتم فيه تختلفون.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you all. translation of the verses of the Holy Quran just recited is as follows. From chapter 16, verses 91 to 93. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. Verily, Allah enjoins justice and the doing of good to others, and giving like kindred, and forbids indecency and manifest evil and transgression. He admonishes you that you may take heed and fulfill the covenant of Allah when you have made one, and break not your oath after making them firm, while you have made Allah your surety. Certainly, Allah knows what you do. And be not like unto her who cuts up her yarn into pieces after having spun it strong by making your oath a means of deceit between you, for fear lest one people become more powerful than another people. Surely Allah tries you therewith, and on the day of resurrection He will make clear to you that wherein you differed. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful recitation and the translation in English. Once again, I would want to welcome all of you to the Pan-African Peace Symposium 2019. I'll now have the honor to introduce the dignitaries on the stage for us. I know everyone here is a dignitary for us tonight, but obviously we cannot, introduce everyone here, so we have that honor to just introduce those on the stage for us. Not in any particular order, but then we start from the very right here, so that it makes it very easy for us to be able to identify who is here with us. First on my list is Mr. Martin Whitman, who is the director of All Faith Network. If you can just show by your hand, or maybe just for the audience to know who we have here. Next is Mr. Issa Wema, who is the former chairman, Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, UK. Next is Imam Abdul Ghaffar Ahmed, who is the missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community based in Birmingham. I have the former Amir of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Engineer Hussein Sumono. Then Dr. Basir Rodney, who is the president of Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, USA. Nigel Stewart, the director of Center for Pan-African Thought. His Excellency Sir Iftikhar Ahmed Ayaz, High Commissioner to the Designate for Tuvalu. Our revered President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom, Mr. Rafiq Ahmed Hayat. The Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, United Kingdom President, Mr. Tommy Callon. His Excellency Dr. Mori Komba Maya, who is the Sierra Leone High Commissioner. Imam Ataul Mujib Rashid, the Imam of the London Mosque and missionary in charge of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom. Honorable Abbas Redwan Dauda, who is a Member of Parliament for the Republic of Ghana. Councillor Stephen Alambritis, who is the leader of the Merton Council. Thank you. Councillor Edward Foley, who is the Deputy Mayor of Merton Council. Mr. Ibrahim Eklaf, who is the Director for National Outreach Secretary for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom. Magistrate Bilkis Savage, who is the Magistrate South London Magistrate Courts. And last but not the least is Mr. Timothy John Baptist, who is the Director and Founder for Time for the World Peace. Thank you very much. We move on to the next on the agenda. I will now have the honor to invite the President of the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom, Mr. Tommy Callon, to give his welcome address. Mr. Tommy Callon.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. In light of the perilous state of the world, it is the urgent need of the time that people and nations set aside their vested interests and focus all their energies upon establishing peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect. A spirit of selflessness and a genuine desire to alleviate the suffering of others must overcome the selfish greed that has taken root in so much of the world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be unto you with the mercy of Allah and His blessings. It is these words of His Holiness, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the Khalifa and worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, from a gracious message addressed to this Pan-African Peace Symposium last year, which inspired the theme of this year's event, establishing peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect. The Pan-African Peace Symposium seeks to create a platform where we can engage and dialogue on matters that engender the values of peace, righteousness, unity, and brotherhood. It aims at promoting the pristine message of Islam as taught by the holy founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, the promised Messiah of the latter days, whose advent was prophesied by the august founder of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Peace, as we know, is not just the absence of war or violence. Peace, as explained by His Holiness, is the establishment of justice, compassion, and mutual respect, ideals which guard against conflict and friction, values which bring about the realization of universal brotherhood, conditions that can stand guard against all the contingencies to which life is subject. In this regard, the story is told of one of the greatest sons of Africa, who was born a slave and ended his life as one of the most revered personages in the annals of human history. He was a slave who was later entitled our master by his contemporaries and future generations. When he embraced Islam against the express wish of his evil and wicked master and refused to recant on the orders of his master, Bilal, that most distinguished and illustrious companion of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, was subjected to the most bitter and brutal persecution. He was whipped and beaten till the bled profusely all over his body. He was dragged through the rocky streets of Mecca by a rope tied around his neck. He was made to lie on the burning sand of the midday Arabian sun with heavy rocks placed upon his body to further excruciate his pain and suffering. He would lose consciousness under the pain of persecution, and when he came around and was asked to disavow Islam, he could but muster enough strength to repeat only one word, Ahad, meaning the one and only true God, Allah. He was tyrannized for days, yet Hazrat Bilal neither begged for mercy nor renounced his belief. Even his tormentors were astounded at his unflinching and unshakable faith. Finally, exasperated and exhausted by their own exertions in torturing him, his master agreed to sell his near lifeless body to a companion of the Holy Prophet who purchased his freedom. Bilal, may Allah be mighty pleased with him, the first slave and the first African to become Muslim, was now a free man who once he recovered from a 5-day coma due to the vicious and violent treatment meted out to him, went on to serve the Holy Prophet of Islam as a faithful disciple. On account of his shining example of steadfastness and fidelity in the face of extreme persecution, the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, treated him with so much honor and respect that the blessed companions of the Prophet designated him Sayyidina Bilal, Bilal, our master. Today, Hazrat Sayyidina Bilal is venerated by billions of Muslims around the world. His story has inspired and illumined the hearts of millions of Muslims through the ages. His tomb in Damascus to this day is visited by thousands of people, high and low, to pay homage for the rich and unique spiritual memorial he bequeathed the world. As Africans, we take immense pride in his unparalleled fortitude and courage under savage cruelties and persecution. As African Muslims, we are honored by the role he played on the day of the conquest of Mecca. On this glorious day in the history of Islam, when, following his 8-year exile to Medina, the Holy Prophet of Islam marched with 10,000 companions to peacefully take the city of Mecca, he prepared a standard and named it after Bilal, and charged none other than Sayyidina Bilal to march in front of it and announce to the chiefs and people of Mecca that if they chose to ask for amnesty and clemency, they will find asylum under the standard of Bilal, the very man who was the object of their utmost contempt and target of their heartless cruelties. This is how the Holy Prophet of Islam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, avenged the oppressed Bilal. It was an endearing and charming revenge that did not kill, yet was exacted. Sayyidina Bilal, may Allah be pleased with him, faithfully executed the orders of his beloved Prophet. He neither taunted nor tormented his erstwhile persecutors. On the contrary, he accorded them the utmost respect and dignity, which in turn won their admiration and approbation. This episode, this remarkable story of Sayyidina Bilal, patently underscores the role that justice, compassion, and mutual respect can play in the establishment of peace. In this singular expression of wisdom by the Holy Prophet of Islam, justice was upheld, compassion was shown, mutual respect was cultivated, and peace was established. Bitter enemies of the morning became warm friends by the afternoon. In today's world, therefore, a world rent asunder by conflict, strife, and warfare, a world beset with bigotry, prejudice, and ignorance, a world tainted by hatred, intolerance, and extremism. This is the example of magnanimity and munificence which we must seek to emulate if we are to emerge from the chaos, confusion, and commotion of this epoch and usher mankind in its entirety to a new era of perpetual peace, philanthropy, and propriety. This is the example of beneficence and benevolence that this Peace Symposium seeks to inculcate. Distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the Pan-African Peace Symposium 2019. Thanks for having me. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Mr. Tommy Callon, for that inspiring speech there. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community, I believe most of you probably this might be the first time you are coming to our mosque. To introduce that to you, we would want to show you a very short video that will give you a glimpse of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and His Holiness Hazrat Mr. Masroor Ahmed, our Khalifa.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Khush Hamdeed, Ahlan wa Sahlan, Bon arrivé, you are welcome.
Illallahu wahdahu la sharika
Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed is the present head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the most dynamic international community within Islam. The community was established by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmed in Qadian, a small and remote village in India. He claimed to be the expected reformer of the latter days, the one awaited by all major world religions. Founded in 1889, the community has continued to spread throughout the world, flourishing under caliphate, the system of spiritual leadership established after the demise of the holy founder. The current successor of this movement, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, continues the work of the holy founder to revive the spiritual and moral state of mankind. The movement embodies the benevolent message of Islam in its pristine purity, a movement that preaches peace, universal brotherhood, and submission to the will of God.
The promised Messiah was sent to propagate the real and true teachings of Islam and the Holy Quran. He was sent to establish a bond between man and God Almighty. He was sent to identify and recognize the rights owed by man to one another. He was sent to end all forms of religious warfare. He was sent to establish the respect, dignity, and honor of every founder and every prophet of any religion. He was sent to draw attention towards attaining the highest standards of moral values. And he was sent to establish peace, love, compassion, and brotherhood throughout the world.
वो शख्स नहीं, वो मेरा दिल है.
His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, the present head of the community, continues in his effort to unite people from all faiths and cultures by promoting interfaith dialogue and religious freedom. He has traveled extensively to spread the message of peace and to remind everyone to respect the rights of other human beings. During these tours, His Holiness has met world leaders from the Far East to Europe, from North America to Africa, discussing the economic, social, and political problems facing the world today and how to create peace and justice in the world. He has also met religious and community leaders in order to share common values and core ideals universal to all religions and cultures, with a view to improving the moral state of mankind and creating an atmosphere of love and affection. From young to old, he compassionately listens to the ordinary man, regardless of race, color, or religion. He has personally initiated social projects and schemes to alleviate poverty and human suffering. His concern is not just about the well-being and moral state of the members of the Ahmadiyya community, but of the great human suffering of mankind at large. The Ahmadiyya community knows only that Islam, which is the Islam of love and affection, offers a real message of peace and security.
I respect his strong commitment to promoting peace and understanding. At a time when extremists are seeking to divide us, His Holiness has delivered an inspiring and peaceful message of love overcoming hatred.
Though of humble beginnings, your leadership has made you a figure of global prominence. You started as a teacher and you have become a guide for millions of Muslims worldwide. You have been persecuted for your beliefs, jailed for your faith, and exiled from your homeland, but you refuse to turn to bitterness or vengeance. And that is a very important lesson.
So again, what a pleasure it is to welcome you, Your Holiness, to Ottawa. an opportunity to discuss the many challenges facing the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, but also the opportunities that we have to work together on shared goals and challenges.
The Ahmadi community has a very special place in my affection because of its commitment to peace and to justice based on love for all and hatred for none.
You are welcome.
We thank the audio-video department for that wonderful video. We now move on to brief remarks by our guest speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Basir Rodney. Dr. Basir Rodney is the president of the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, PAAMA, USA. In this role, he works to foster and strengthen unity among Ahmadiyya Muslims of African descent and actively works to serve and support the spiritual, moral, and socio-economic development of African diasporic communities throughout the USA. As a professor of education at Webster University in St. Louis, Missouri, he often gives talks on culturally responsive teaching, African and Caribbean history, and Muslim identity, among others. He focuses on the teachings of peace as presented in the Holy Quran and advocates for living based on the Ahmadiyya maxim, love for all, hatred for none. Dr. Basir has traveled all the way from the United States, as we can see, with a delegation of PAAMA USA members to participate in this peace symposium. We now invite Dr. Basir to share his brief remarks with us. Dr. Basir.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Peace be upon you. I testify that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, that He is one and has no partner, and that the Prophet Muhammad of Arabia is His servant and His messenger. It is with a great honor that I have traveled from the United States with the head of Our Ladies PAAMA Auxiliary there, as well as some of our other members, to participate in this symposium. And I think at the outset, I want to say that this is a very wonderful gathering. I see the smile on people's faces, and I see just the care and the love in people's eyes. So thank you very much for the wonderful and warm welcome that we have been presented with here. And before I depart, I'll say three quick things. As the presenter said, I happen to be a professor, so you know I could go on all night, but I know I probably stand between you and dinner, so I will share three things with you that remain with me even as I am engaged in this forum. As Muslims and as Ahmadi Muslims in particular, we are taught a very important truth in the last writing, one of the last writings of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, a book called The Message of Peace. He explained to us that the Holy Quran is right to suggest that peace is possible. Peace is possible. It is often a challenge, you know. We've all grown up and we've heard people talk about peace in life and peace in community and world peace. And you know, as you get older, we sometimes get cynical. And so sometimes people think of that as a lofty goal, that it's not really possible. But what Allah tells us is that one of the key messages of Islam is that peace is possible. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us, he said, what Muslims do in the world, one of the key things that they should do is spread the salam, spread peace. So this is why when Muslims meet each other and we meet the people, we say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. And this is a message that all of the prophets brought with them. If you listen to the message of Hazrat Isa of Jesus, when you read the Quran, when you read the Bible, peace be upon him, he would meet the people and he would say, peace be unto you. And what does that teach us? That peace is possible. that it is not a airy-fairy pie in the sky, that human beings can have peaceful relationships here in the world, and we can have content relationships here in the world. And this is our belief. And so with that spirit in mind, PAAMA USA is constantly on the march, as the other PAAMA groups. We are pursuing peaceful engagement with each other and with the communities in which we exist. It is a very profound truth that if we are in the house of God, if we are in the space of God, then we seek to have peace in our lives and peace in our relationships. And the Quran teaches us many different ways by which we can get to that. So by Allah's grace, I'm very grateful to be here, and on behalf of PAAMA USA and the members that have come with me and all of our collective more than 1,000 members back in the United States, thank you for having us, and thank you for holding fast to this belief in a very trying time in the world that peace is indeed possible. Jazakallah, assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rodney Basir. We move on to our next speaker, Mrs. Frida Bediakompuni, who is the Minister and Council responsible for the Political and Economic Affairs at the Ghana High Commission, London. After obtaining her university degrees in the Political Science, International Affairs and Law, she joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Ghana in 2006 as an assistant director, and by dint of her hard work, rose to the rank of deputy director. She has served in the various bureaus in the ministries including Human Resource and Administration, Policy Planning Bureau, International Organizations Bureau, Multilateral Relations Bureau, and Asia and Pacific Bureau. Mrs. Bediakompuni has also served in Ghana Foreign Mission, including Ghana Embassy to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where she was a counselor and head of chancery. She is representing the Ghana High Commissioner to the United Kingdom at this Peace Symposium, and we welcome her to give her few remarks.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. President of Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association in the UK, Mr. Tommy Kalon. President of PAAMA in the US, I just heard you finish speaking, Dr. Rodney. His Excellency, Sir Atikha, permit me with the pronunciation of your name, Azaz, Honorable Consul of Tuvalu and Chairman of International Human Rights Committee, the High Commissioner of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Dr. Marie Komba Maya, CEO of Justina Mutala Foundation, Dr. Justina Mutala, Honorable Abbas Redwan Dauda, Member of Parliament in Ghana, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinct honor to be part of this all-important program organized by the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association in the United Kingdom. I also bring you fraternal greetings from His Excellency Papa Owusu Nkrumah, the High Commissioner of Ghana to the United Kingdom, and convey his sincere apology for his inability to be here, because he's equally, as I speak, engaged in another important program for the good of us all. Let me at the outset commend highly the PAAMA UK and the organizers for choosing the theme, establishing peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect. There could not have been a better theme than this. I will not belabor the facts this evening of the history of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, which was founded in the 19th century. I'd rather want to highlight the very foundation of Ahmadiyya Muslim community as that of peace, true love for God, and the duty to serve mankind. My search has revealed that this symposium is the third in its series. This effort I must applaud, for it is gratifying to know that peace is ever being trumpeted by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, for this matter, the Pan-African Muslim Association. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that the peace and stability that Ghana has enjoyed over the years is enviable and worthy of emulation. This is because religious groups in Ghana coexist peacefully with understanding and mutual respect for one another. In Ghana, the Ahmadiyya Muslim is very visible and has made considerable contribution in the education sector, in the health sector, and socio-economic development of the country. As a Ghanaian and a proud one, of course, let me tie what Ghana stands on peace in relation to the theme of this very important symposium is. You may recall that the theme for this year's celebration for our independence was peace and unity, which is a testament of what you aspire, which is admirable, because everything on this earth to me from east to west depends on peace. And this is also a testament of the desire of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo to consolidate the peace currently enjoyed in Ghana and to build on a solid foundation for national development. This goes to enhance the credentials of our country in the region and the world as a whole. The theme for this year, as I've already indicated, is a clarion call for Ghana and, of course, across all Ghanaians, diaspora, including this very forum, to consolidate the credentials of the peace that we are aspiring and to forge ahead in unity and development for the Black Star of Africa. It is gratifying to know that under the aegis of the President, a new overlord was installed in Dagon, bringing an end to a conflict spanning over 2 decades in Ghana. I hasten to point to the fruits of unity and peace, which the President so desires for the achievement of our common purpose. To celebrate this remarkable achievement, let me mention again that the good people of Ghana, for the first time in history, the independence was celebrated in the northern country of Ghana, the capital of the capital of our northern region. To conclude, because I was actually want to stream down my message this evening, I would want to urge the PAAMA to keep up its good work on peace through this platform of this annual symposium, and to keep the flame of peace burning throughout Africa and the world at large. I thank you for your attention. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Frida Bediakupuni, for that enlightenment. We now move on to the next speaker for tonight, who is Honorable Abbas Redwan Dawuda. Honorable Abbas Redwan Dawuda is a member of Parliament in the Republic of Ghana. He had his education at the Wa Secondary School, where he served as the president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Students Association. After graduating from the university with a degree in banking and finance, he worked in various administrative capacities before launching a company to help young girls learn the art of dressmaking, where up to 80 girls at the time had training for free. In 2015, he became the youngest parliamentarian in his region. He is now a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, as well as the Privileges Committee in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. We are very honored that he had traveled all the way from Ghana to participate in this peace symposium, and we invite him to give his brief remarks.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. All protocols duly observed. I'm pleased and highly honored to be invited to make a brief comment on the topic, establishing peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect. Ladies and gentlemen, I was touched by the activities of PAAMA at the just ended Dr. Salana UK 3 months ago. Upon hearing the activities of PAAMA, I had a word with the president of PAAMA, and I told him I will be part of any activity that will be organized by PAAMA. And today, inshallah, I'm here. Thanks to Mr. Tony, President of Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK, for the invitation. Peace as opposed to war, Cold War, violent clashes, or civil strifes is indispensable to socio-economic development. Without peace, there cannot be any sustainable development. It is in recognition of the relevance of peace that visionary world leaders established the League of Nations after the First World War in 1918 and followed it up with the United Nations in 1945 after the Second World War. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we established peace through justice when feuding nations subject themselves to the decision of recognized court of arbitration. For example, 2 years ago, when there was a maritime boundary dispute between my country, Ghana, and its neighbor, La Côte d'Ivoire, peace was achieved when the two countries took the matter to the International Maritime Arbitration Court in Geneva, Switzerland, for settlement. As many of you can remember, the case was ruled in favor of Ghana. The two prominent West African nations would have been up in arms if there was no justice system to undertake the arbitration. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to indicate that, as mentioned by Madam, that in Ghana, there have been a peace resolution in Dagon from the year 2002, when the late Yana Abdul Andani was beheaded by the Abdul factions, following a misunderstanding during the celebration of the traditional fire festival of the Dagons till 1918. Socio-economic development in the northern region stagnated as a result of insecurity. Government set up a mediation committee, the Committee of Eminent Chiefs, under the leadership of Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, the Ashantihin, who worked tirelessly to get feuding factions smoke the peace pipe. Peace has finally been restored in Dagon with the intervention of Committee of Eminent Chiefs and the support of His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. A new Yana Abubakar Mahama has been enskinned. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you are not that aware, the laws which guarantee the rights of the citizens of a country are usually enshrined in the Constitution. In a situation where a dictator influenced the amendment of the Constitution to prolong his tenure of office, we cannot establish peace through justice because the justice system would have been perverted. People with the ambition to govern then resort to violence and guerrilla warfare for a change of government. Peace would therefore be compromised. Peace at times is compromised when nations and individuals try to provide justice and security for a group of people and individuals. Others also try to destroy the security and peace around such people. In some part of the world, there are schools and hospitals and other social amenities meant for the rich and some for the poor. Under such situations, it is always difficult for peace to prevail. For peace to prevail, there should be equal rights and justice. As we have in our slogan, love for all, hatred for none. There cannot be peace and justice when people lack basic amenities such as roads, potable drinking water, basic healthcare, and educational infrastructure. African countries are endowed with resources, but lack the technology to process them for value addition. Materials are exported in most cases in their raw state to be processed in industries established by developed nations. There are opportunities for foreign direct investment in Ghana, especially in agri, tourism, mining sector of the economy. I would urge potential investors to consider relocating to Ghana. Our constitution and justice system guarantee peace and stability. We would like to urge developed nations to endeavor to offer technical assistance to developing countries for knowledge transfer in our quest to achieve a just world economic order. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, within the family setup, we can establish peace through compassion and mutual respect. Although we recognize man as the head of the house, we also acknowledge the complementary roles of the woman and children in getting things moving on well at home. It is therefore imperative for the man to treat the woman and children with compassion and love. We can establish peace in the family if there's mutual respect for the family members. We must show compassion for the disadvantaged members of the family, including physically challenged. In case we do not have deprived family members, we can show compassion for some other people who may not be close to us. For all men are brothers. It is possible to establish peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect, but it requires development of high moral standard by the leaders and citizens. Thank you for the patience and attention, and may Allah bless us all. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Widwan Dawuda. Our next speaker is His Excellency Dr. Mori Kumba Maye. Dr. Mori Kumba Maye is a Sierra Leone High Commissioner to the United Kingdom and is a former academic from the University of Sierra Leone with over 30 years of service as a teacher, researcher, and administrator. His Excellency Dr. Maye served as a member and chairman of various boards, including the West Africa Examination Council, Central Bank of Sierra Leone, and the National Commission for the Democracy before taking up appointments in the current government administration, firstly as a Minister for Mines and Mineral Resources, and only 11 days ago, on the 15th of October, as a Sierra Leone High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. We are therefore honored and grateful that our Pan-Africa Peace Symposium is one of the first events is attending in this new capacity. His Excellency is a strong advocate for education and national development policies that focuses on improving the quality of lives. We welcome him to the United Kingdom and invite him to say a few words. Dr. Maye.
Assalamu alaikum. Let me start by saying that personally, my commitment, my belief in peace, unity, justice is summarized in my email address, which is manyeforpeace.unity@yahoo.com. And so, if you talk about peace and unity and justice to me, you're preaching to the converted. Let me say that I am here speaking on behalf of the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Julius Maada Bio, and to convey fraternal greetings from him and to all participants of the Pan-African Peace Symposium. I am privileged to be the one here speaking on his behalf. You perhaps remember that we suffered what was described at the time as Africa's most savage war for 10 years, our rebel war, which cost so many lives, displaced so many Sierra Leoneans, and as we sit here, not many Sierra Leoneans are fully recovered from that savage war. So as a nation, as a people, we know what peace means. We know what peace represents. We know that a world without peace, without justice, without unity is a very troubled war. Sierra Leone has benefited immensely from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and President Julius Maada Bio noted in an address to the Ahmadiyya Annual Conference in Sierra Leone earlier this year, and I quote, "We have followed closely His Holiness's Pathway to Peace international initiative that works towards achieving world peace through the teachings of Islam. Further, his World Peace Symposium since 2003 that advocates peaceful coexistence and his inspirational book, The Pathway to Peace, speaks to what the Ahmadiyya mission in Sierra Leone has come to represent," unquote. The Ahmadiyya community's work in health, education, and poverty relief in Sierra Leone is a true and commendable form of social action. We learn from history that the first Ahmadiyya Muslim missionary arrived in Sierra Leone in 1921. The community established the first Muslim primary school in 1938 at Rukupru, and the first Muslim secondary school in 1960 in Bo. Over the years, the community has made education accessible to people in the remotest parts of the country, with 212 primary schools, 64 secondary schools through the length and breadth of the country. Moreover, some of the illustrious citizens serving the nation of Sierra Leone today have hailed from these schools. And I want to note here that President Bio's government, which is in its second year, has as its flagship free education for all, because he believes, and I share this belief with him, that with the right kind of education, we can banish injustice, we can banish human weaknesses, we can banish all that makes this world the troubled world that it is today. The Ahmadiyya community has also built and staffed hospitals and several clinics in various localities and continues to provide affordable health care to hundreds of Sierra Leoneans. We note that as part of the centenary commemoration of the establishment of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Women's Association, the UK chapter has committed to building a maternity hospital in Sierra Leone at the cost of £800,000 to be funded by the donation of their members. We thank you very much for this honorable intention, and we pray that Allah will guide you and help you achieve this objective. On behalf of the government and people of Sierra Leone, I thank Dr. Khan, the national president, and all members of our association for choosing Sierra Leone as beneficiary for this noble commemorative enterprise. I would also like to recognize and commend the Ahmadiyya Mission's partnership with our government in implementing various poverty alleviation schemes. The housing scheme, solar energy, water wells provided by the International Association of Ahmadiyya Architects and Engineers, and the agricultural projects and free vocational IT training by Humanity First are remarkable pioneering ventures for which we are grateful. We also thank the Ahmadiyya Mission for humanitarian intervention during the Ebola crisis. Through Humanity First, the mission contributed funds, held free medical camps, trained volunteers to contribute towards the nationwide sensitization campaign. The mission also supplied food and clothing to quarantined homes and cared for the welfare of Ebola orphans. The mission has demonstrated again and again the power of compassion and kindness. I therefore congratulate you on your Pan-African Peace Symposium and hope that your good works, your message of peace, your philosophy of love for all, hatred for none, will continue to flourish in the UK and throughout the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Dr. Manya. And I believe when Dr. Manya keeps on giving us the information about some of the philanthropic activities of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Africa, and Sierra Leone in particular, a lot of you will just be imagining it. So to make it easy for you, we have a very short video here which will give you some of the collaboration that the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim community have with Humanity First and IAAE.
The Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK is proud to work with Humanity First and the International Association of Ahmadi Architects and Engineers to improve the lives of millions of people across the continent of Africa, improving health, education, and food security for millions. Under the guidance of the Khalifa, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, may God be his helper, model villages are being constructed across Africa. The concept is to use improved construction techniques and solar power to provide more sustainable housing, communal facilities such as halls, training centers and mosques, lighting, safe access to water and sanitation, and improved crop management. Many such villages have already been built. Too many people lack access to safe drinking water. Through the Water for Life program, thousands of village water hand pumps have been deployed and refurbished to provide local access to drinking water in Africa to over 3 million people. The community has built and runs over 800 schools, and now we are improving the classrooms, building libraries and science laboratories, installing toilet blocks, and providing access to computers. Dozens of mosques have been built in Africa as part of our commitment to its spiritual welfare, providing communities not only with places of worship, but also community centers to facilitate cohesion and promote goodwill. In farming villages, we are deploying machines to process cassava, maize, couscous, and rice to generate high-value products and save time and effort for women. Dozens of hospitals and clinics across the region provide access to quality care at low costs. Medical camps provide access to doctors in remote regions. Over 60,000 students have been trained to certificate and diploma levels at 25 vocational training centers across Africa, covering IT, tailoring, languages, and engineering trades. We have 2 mobile eye surgery units in West Africa providing free cataract surgery. Our teams also provide low-cost prescription glasses. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is spearheading initiatives to provide improved health, food security, and training. The net effect is to take millions in Africa out of poverty. The Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association's partnership with Humanity First and IAAE allows it to project its vision and commitment to the religion of Islam, the welfare of humanity, and the cause of Africa.
Thank you very much for watching that brief video of some of the activities of the Ahmadiyya Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association in collaboration with Humanity First and IAAE. We now move on to the climax of the day or the evening. And now we are at the keynote speech. The keynote speaker is His Excellency Sir Iftikhar Ayaz, who grew up in Tanzania following his university education in the United Kingdom and USA. He also worked in senior positions at the University of Dar es Salaam, the Center for Integrated Rural Development for Africa, Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation, UNDP, and UNESCO. He has been serving on the United Nations Human Rights Council Committee and the Committee for the Rights of Minorities. Presently, he is the chairman of the International Human Rights Committee and the High Commissioner Designate for Tuvalu Islands, among others. Sir Iftikhar Ayaz is a recipient of several honors, including the Role Model of the Year 2016, OBE, which is the Officer of Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. He is also a KBE, which is the Knight Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Sir Iftikhar Ayaz is an eminent member of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and actually the former president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom. He is a prolific writer and a speaker, having published several books and spoken at several high-profile events, including the recent peace conferences in Ghana and Uganda. And I have the singular honor and pleasure of inviting Sir Iftikhar Ayaz to give his keynote address.
Thank you. Thank you. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Highly respected chairperson, our blessed National President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the United Kingdom, distinguished President of the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK, Your Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings and mercy of Allah be upon you. It is indeed an immense honor for me to address this peace symposium today. I consider myself privileged that God has enabled me to participate in this event, attended by a galaxy of noble citizens of this country and Africa, hosted by the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK. We are assembled here to answer but one question, and that question is, how can humanity attain peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect for all? If this question sounds too trite in its simplicity or too familiar in its rhyme, it is because this is a challenge. This is a challenge. that has been with us, humanity, in every corner of the world for millennia. Sadly, we are reminded on a daily basis, not only in Africa, but the world over, of how unequally the bounties of globalization have been shared. There can be little hope for global peace and justice when hundreds of millions live in abject poverty, when a significant proportion of the world remains in a state of despair, and when there is an untenable division of wealth and configuration of power within and among the nations of the world. To achieve global peace and justice, we must commit ourselves to finding a way of ending the marginalization of Africa and other developing nations in the world. We can no longer continue to flounder in the morass of circumlocution. It was David Dinkins, the first and only African American to hold the office of mayor of New York City in America, who once said, "No matter how rich and powerful we become, we cannot be satisfied. We cannot be satisfied when many children experience the sunset of opportunity at the dawn of their life, at the dawn of their existence." Islam, which means peace, has a lot to offer in the quest for peace, justice, compassion, and mutual respect. In fact, Africa made Islam its own at the very inception, when the African Christian king Negus of Abyssinia gave asylum to the persecuted followers of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. That example of goodwill and benevolence points to the role religion can play in contributing to the renewal of the African continent and indeed the world. World peace hangs precariously on the feeble hope that justice will prevail in global affairs. We note with despondency, however, that international relations are not governed by the principles of justice. Different standards are applied to individual nations. A world arena of diplomatic lobbying and intrigue, the formation of alliances and blocs, and in general attempts to gain the upper hand over opponents by any means available is undermining the peace of the world. Positive change is only possible. Positive change is only possible if one is willing to set aside their personal interests for the greater good and is willing to act fairly at all times. Islam says that justice is the foundation upon which peace is built, and so we must pay heed to the urgent issues of this world, of our time. Islam's teachings of peace prohibit all forms of extremism to the extent that even in a state of legitimate war, God has commanded that any action or punishment should remain proportionate to the crimes committed, and that it is better if patience and forgiveness is manifest. Thus, it can be seen that Islam is a faith whose cornerstone in all affairs is absolute justice. To get an accurate portrayal of Islamic governance and leadership, we should look to the era of the founder of Islam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. After the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, migrated to the city of Medina, he formed a covenant with the Jewish people whereby the Muslims and the Jewish citizens were to live together peacefully and with a spirit of mutual sympathy, tolerance, and equity. The covenant proved to be a magnificent charter of human rights and governance and ensured peace between the different communities living in Medina. According to its terms, all people, regardless of their faith or ethnicity, were bound to respect the rights of one another. Freedom of belief and freedom of conscience were cornerstones of that treaty. As immigrants, the Muslims sought to serve their new society and to respect the rights of all the citizens of Medina. It was an outstanding example of successful integration and a manifestation of a peaceful and tolerant multicultural society. The Treaty of Medina was based directly upon the teachings of the Holy Quran. His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, reminded us only a few days ago in his historic address at UNESCO in Paris of the singular example of the Holy Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in administering absolute justice. His Holiness said, the Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, established an impartial judiciary for dispute resolution. He made it clear that there would be one law for all, the rich and powerful, and the poor and the weak. And all people would be treated equally according to the law of the land. For example, on one occasion, an affluent lady committed a crime, and some people suggested that given her high standing in society, it was better to turn a blind eye to her crimes. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, rejected their suggestion and made it clear that even if his own daughter committed an offense, she too would be subjected to the law, and no favoritism, no nepotism would occur. This is the lofty example that the world must follow if we are to establish peace based on justice. At a time when fear of Islam is ever increasing, the Holy Quran has repeatedly enjoined love, compassion, and benevolence. If in certain extreme circumstances the Quran permitted defensive warfare, it was only in order to establish peace. The standards of justice required by Islam are outlined in chapter 4, verse 136 of the Holy Quran, which states, O ye who believe, be strict in observing justice and be witnesses for Allah, even though it be against yourselves or against your parents and kindred, whether against whom witness is borne is your father or your mother or your relative, or he be rich or poor, Allah is more regardful of them all than you are. Therefore, follow not your low desires, that you may be able to act equitably. And if you conceal the truth, God Almighty says, or evade it, then know that Allah is well aware of what you do. So this is a verse which is a milestone, which is a cornerstone of the teachings of peace of Islam and the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran has outlined 3 levels of engagement with other people and other communities. The first and minimum level is of justice, whereby the Holy Quran advocates the need to treat everyone fairly and equitably. Hence, according to the Holy Quran, justice requires that a person is willing to testify even against itself and its most loved ones, in order to guard and protect the truth. The second level of engagement advocated by the Holy Quran is that a person should not only be just, but should go beyond it by doing good to others, by manifesting generosity and forgiveness. The Holy Quran teaches that once you have successfully stopped an aggressive nation from inflicting further cruelties, you should not seek revenge or impose hardship upon that nation. Rather, you should seek to help them build up their economy and infrastructure. Where this will be done, where this will help them, help the other nations, it will also help you in the long term in sustaining peace. The founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the promised Messiah and reformer of this age, stated in his book, A Message of Peace, he stated, a religion which does not inculcate universal compassion is not a religion at all. Similarly, a human being without the faculty of compassion is no human at all. This is the wisdom underpinning the Islamic teaching of going beyond basic justice and exhibiting kindness and compassion. The third level of engagement taught by the Holy Quran is to treat others in the same way that a mother treats her child, which is the most selfless form of love, as it is rendered without any expectations of reward. A mother's love is truly selfless and altruistic, and her unique bond with her child is such that she is willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of her offspring. She desires nothing in return, and nor does she require any form of praise or tribute. Therefore, this is the ultimate standard that Islam advocates, whereby Muslims are taught to love all humanity as a mother loves her child. These are the true teachings of Islam. We should not consider any issue or conflict, whether within a country or at an international level, to be insignificant. Whether we are dealing with economic issues or immigration or any other crisis, we must show tolerance and strive to break down the barriers that divide us. We should utilize all our energies and faculties to pursue peace by seeking to end every conflict amicably through dialogue and mutual compromise, and by fulfilling the rights of other people. Unfortunately, what we observe in economies based on capitalism and scientific socialism is a lack of compassion and ethics in commercial dealings, which leads to disquiet and unrest. There can be no talk of compassion in world economic affairs when unfair world trade pricing and unjust foreign debt policies continue to empower foreign nations to hold African states to ransom. When foreign capital is used for the exploitation rather than for the development of the less developed parts of the world, and when foreign investment increases rather than decreases the gap between the rich and the poor countries of the world. Ultimately, to bring about peace, whether in Muslim nations or at a broader international level, it is necessary that at the very minimum, the demands of justice are fulfilled by governments so that all people are given their due rights, and that selfish vested interests give way to what is fair and right for all. Furthermore, international institutions such as the United Nations should treat each country equally rather than give the power of veto to certain countries. A equality in all its aspects should be the roadmap to a better world. As the great African-American civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. observed, true compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. True compassion is not haphazard and superficial. It comes to realize that an edifice which produces beggars needs to be restructured. We must therefore seek to restructure the edifice of the world economy. We must seek to repair the current inequalities in wealth and redress the disparities between the rich and the poor, which are nowhere as bitterly felt as it is felt on the continent of Africa. His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, stated in his message to this Pan-African Symposium last year, words which continue to inspire us even today. He said, in light of the perilous state of the world, it is the urgent need of the time that people and nations set aside their vested interests and focus all their energies upon establishing peace through justice, compassion, and mutual respect. A spirit of selflessness and a genuine desire to alleviate the suffering of others must overcome the selfish greed that has taken root in so much of the world. His Holiness further admonished that we must strive to establish a society based on mutual respect. The ethic of civil society is defined by compromise, cooperation, and coexistence. People come together from various backgrounds to exchange views, share experiences, and promote common interests based on mutual respect. As Jean-Bertrand Aristide, Haiti's first democratically elected president, remarked, there will never be enough money to give each person the house, the job, the school fees that they need. But we always have enough humanity. We always have enough humanity to treat one another with the respect and dignity that we all deserve. These are very wise and very impressive statement which he made. This, dear audience, calls for the upholding of the human values of dignity, equality, and freedom, with a better life and inalienable rights for all across all racial, cultural, ideological, geographical, ethnic, religious, and class lines at the heart of the mission. This calls for the promotion of a value system founded in the service of humanity and inspired by the love of God, a commitment to forgiveness and reconciliation over revenge and retribution, opposition to injustice, discrimination, and oppression in favor of righteousness, inclusiveness, and liberty. This calls for the commitment to human values that allow the variety of cultures, races, religions, and languages to inform the total richness that can turn the African continent into the powerful engine for development it has the potential to be. Nelson Mandela taught us that to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others, So that was the important point which he made. The spirit of Ubuntu must prevail. In a recent book by Mangi Ngomane, the granddaughter of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, she explains that the philosophy of the philosophy of Ubuntu is that all believe in a universal human bond, in a universal human bond, summed up by the words. She says, what is universal bond? She sums it up, she says, I am only because you are. I am only because you are. If you are not there, I am not there. If you are not in peace, I am not in peace. If you are not prosperous, I am not prosperous. So those are beautiful words from Mangi Ngomane, and they relate to the spirit of Ubuntu about which we are all familiar. A commitment to human values which engender mutual respect and sensitivity to the things others hold dear would be a tremendous contribution to the kind of future we want to bequeath posterity, especially at a time when tensions and extremism of all kinds threatens to destroy global peace and harmony. The dream of an African Renaissance has been a common theme since the era of the African emancipation from colonialism. I humbly and respectfully submit that the African Renaissance, in all its parts, can only succeed if all its aims and objectives are defined by Africans themselves, if its programs are designed by ourselves in Africa, and if we take full ownership, full responsibility for the success and failures of our policies, policies geared to meet national needs rather than win international approbation. This was the whole purpose and object of our establishing the African Union Commission. If we are to seize the day, we must do so now. We must do so now, seeking honest purpose, strengthening our unity and mutual bond. We must promote good governance, transparency, and the rule of law in all of our affairs if we are to emerge as a people conscious of our responsibilities to ourselves, to our future generations, and to the world in which we live. We must value the new generation of our youth. As the second Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community notably remarked, a nation cannot be reformed without first reforming its youth. We must reform our youth so that they stand resolute and determined to exercise zero tolerance for corruption, inefficiency, mismanagement, and government waste. In this way, we can end the vicious cycle of chaos and instability and make the 21st century, make the 21st century the African century. As the African-American writer and civil rights activist Audre Lorde remarked, it is not our differences that divide us. It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. We should unite on the basis of ethical values and moral principles, placing our humanity above our heterogeneity and our universality above our diversity. Most importantly, we should unite on the basis of our relationship with one another as creatures of the same benevolent God. And for the sake of winning His pleasure, we should live together as brothers and sisters. In a special message to Africa last year at the first Peace Symposium in Ghana, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad said, now is the time to put aside our differences, and for all people, whether religious or not, whether rich or poor, to come together and recognize the fact that we are all part of the same human race and united as such. We must promote peace through justice and love at every level of society, and each individual has a significant role to play in this. Islam provides guidance for a peaceful and ideal society at every level. For such a society to exist, there must be a social system which upholds the rights and responsibilities of each individual. Such a system would provide a balance in the role and status of men and women, thus putting the status of women on an equal footing with that of men. Sadly, the Islamic teaching about treatment of women is often one of the most misunderstood. Western women generally view Muslim women as repressed and deprived of their rights. The media portrays the stereotypical Muslim woman as fully covered and dominated by her husband with little more status than a slave. You may be amazed to find that for 1400 years, Muslim women have been enjoying rights for which Western women are still struggling. So it's a great testimony about the status and the right of women in Islam. Another area where you will find that Muslim women, especially those amongst the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, have a lead over others in the field of education. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said that education is compulsory for both men and women. He said, it is the duty of every Muslim man and every Muslim woman to acquire knowledge. He also exhorted both to seek knowledge, even if you have to go to China, and to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. The holy founder of Islam thus placed great emphasis on learning. He taught that parents who give their child nothing better than a good education. Acting upon this directive, the early Muslims embarked upon the pursuit of knowledge and learning, the blessings emanating from which were to inspire a great civilization which Muslims and non-Muslims alike lived and created a lot of innovations out of it, and their lives became useful for others, and which by its achievements enriched the whole world. In his historic address at UNESCO earlier this month, the head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community stressed the importance of education across society. He said that access to education was the means of establishing peace and stability, and that Islam emphasized the importance of ensuring that girls were educated and given equal opportunities as boys. We must empower the next generation of African women and all women everywhere in the world to take their full place as harbingers of enlightened nations, and in doing so remind ourselves that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, guaranteed proximity. He guaranteed proximity, it's worth noting, proximity to himself in paradise to the parents who gave no preference to their sons over their daughters in their upbringing. Alongside investment in human resources through education and empowerment, we must also seek to control. This is also important, especially those who are in authority in governments and politics. We must also seek to control the import of arms and curb heavy spending on aggressive military capabilities. Expenditure which would be better spent on infrastructure, development, and spiritual enlightenment. We believe that Africans are capable of providing leadership that is altruistic and not self-serving for its own aggrandizement. Leadership that prizes highly integrity, justice, compassion, and respect for the inherent dignity of all. From an Islamic perspective, we should strive for the entire world to unite together. The Islamic viewpoint is that peace can best be achieved through unity, yet regretfully, instead of uniting, some factions in certain countries are seeking separation and prioritizing their individual interests over the collective interests of their nations and the world. We must do our best to help our conflict-ridden countries. It is a matter of felicitations that Prime Minister Ahmed of Ethiopia has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize this year for resolving a 20-year-old conflict with Eritrea amicably. That trend to resolve conflicts through dialogue must continue all over Africa and the rest of the world. The Holy Quran states that if there is a war or conflict between two parties, other nations should mediate impartially and seek to bring about a peaceful settlement. However, if one side continues to be unjust and does not move towards a peaceful resolution outcome, then the other nations should unite together to stop the aggressor. Once the aggressive nations or their parties refrain from wrongdoing, Islam categorically instructs that revenge should not be sought through unjust sanctions or the plundering of their resources. This is what we find in the world of today, unjustified sanctions where they don't mean anything at all. As we have mentioned, the root cause of frustration and the resulting hostility, whether in the East or the West, is injustice. And so it is essential that a concerted effort is made to bridge the divide amongst nations and their people. Furthermore, we must unite in our efforts to end all forms of extremism and prejudice without religious, racial, or any other kind. To combat radicalization and extremist groups, we must cut off the root cause of their human breeding. Our fight against terrorist groups will never be won if we fail to address legitimate grievances that terrorists seek to exploit. If we do not build trust with all communities, if we do not uphold the rule of law, and if we do not act with justice, this is not going to be possible. There is, however, a glimmer of hope for Africa in the race to stockpile sophisticated weapons and the risks these pose to civilizations of the world, and that is that African nations have thus far steered clear of nuclear armament. In a message to the First Ahmadiyya Peace Conference in Ghana last year, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, he wrote, "I am pleased that African countries have not joined the ranks of those nations who are involved in the world's nuclear arms race. It is my belief that if the rest of the world continues to act unjustly, usurping the rights of others and interfering in other nations, they will ultimately destroy themselves. If and when that day comes, His Holiness said, I believe that Africa may be the only continent that will have saved itself from annihilation. Moreover, where today Africa is looked down upon by many and considered weak, your continent, His Holiness said, your continent, the continent of Africa, will be in a pivotal position to play a role in rebuilding the rest of the world. Thus, never underestimate yourselves or the potential of your nations or the potential of your countries. Rather, the African countries should ensure that they are ready to one day take on the mantle of leading the world. His Holiness was very, very strong and clear about making sure that Africa is the continent of the future. Distinguished audience, although Africa has seen a plethora of social, economic, and political problems ranging from civil wars and power struggles to capital flight and weak economies, we do thus believe that Africa's time is nigh. In a message addressed to people of African origin, the second Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad, may Allah be pleased with him, made the following remark. He said, and this is a long time ago, this is what he said. He said, I'm reading the writing on the wall that there is a great future for your race. God does not forsake a race for all time to come. Sometimes he gives opportunity to one nation and one continent, and then he offers the same opportunity to another nation and another continent. Now is your time, Africa. Now is your time. You have been oppressed and ruled by others for a very long time. Rest assured that your glorious time is fast approaching. So that is a message which we should take with us and remember and pass it on to our nation and our people. His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, reiterated the same message of good cheer when addressing an African 50th anniversary Independence Day commemorative event held by the Pan-African Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK. He declared, and this is again the words of His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, he said, I firmly believe that the time is fast approaching for Africa to lead the world. I firmly believe that the time is fast approaching for Africa to lead the world. This is the time. This is our moment, the moment of Africa. We must therefore maintain an abiding faith in our capacity to live in peace and to seek justice and a better way of life for Africa and Africans all over the world. We must seize the moment in our pursuit of a brighter future and in our quest for peace and justice, for compassion and mutual respect, leave no stone unturned in our endeavors to transcend man-made differences and bring harmony where there is discord, fraternity where there is enmity, and unity where there is division. The day may yet dawn when man's mutual respect for each other, compassion for one's fellow men, regard for justice, and aptitude for peace will enable posterity to march forth earnestly and triumphantly from this troubled epoch to a glorious new era in which humankind would learn to use the fruits of our universality, our diversity, and our humanity for the promotion of global peace and universal fraternity. For this, we must take every opportunity to advance the cause and welfare of Africa and the rest of the world. We must take every opportunity to relieve the poverty and suffering of those affected. We must, in the service of God and His creation, take every opportunity to sustain our determination and our courage, to renew our fervor, and our dedication to nourish our spirits and our faith, so that the elusive dream of a united, prosperous, enlightened, and almighty Africa can be transformed from a hollow yearning into a glowing reality. And we must never forget the blazing fountain of our guidance, the blazing fountain which is going to enlighten and which is enlightening us and which will enlighten us forever, is the fountain of Islam, is the fountain of the Holy Quran, is the fountain that is now being spread and diversified by the present Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. With all my heart, and I request you too also, we should all pray that humankind comes to recognize its obligations to one another, so that those who follow us, the generations which are going to follow us, remember us with pride and gratitude for leaving behind a legacy of godliness, a legacy of spirituality, a legacy of respect for religion, faith, and its teaching. unity, fraternity, peace, and prosperity. May God grant us the wisdom. May God give us the strength, the courage, the enlightenment to follow on the principles that our Almighty God has provided us for a peaceful world. May God so ordain and bless us all profoundly. And I thank you very much for your attention. And please excuse me for this very humble sharing of my thoughts with you on a topic which is so dear to our hearts, not only here, not only in Africa, but all over the world. God bless you.
And that was the keynote address given by Sir Iftikhar Ayaz, KBOB, PhD. Thank you very much for those thoughts. Yes, I think at this juncture, everyone will be looking at what is coming next. And I can assure you the dinner is just around the corner. But before we do that, we want to humbly request the President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community United Kingdom, Mr. Rafiq Hayat, to give us the closing remarks. Mr. Rafiq Hayat.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Most respected Chairman of PAAMA, Tommy Kahlo, our keynote speaker, Sir Dr. Iftikhar Ayaz, Your Excellencies, and very respected dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Now, you've heard Ahmed say that food is almost ready, so I won't be taking too much of your time. Just give me a couple of minutes so that I can bring this very illustrious gathering to a close. I would say that in order to have peace, we must have morality. And morality is linked very closely to faith. And even those people who are atheists or agnostics, who do not believe in faith, they still very much draw on the moral code in order to lead their peaceful lives. Therefore, in order to have peace in our world, faith has to play a very important role. Now, previously, all the world religions used to sit very comfortably, and whether it was Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, but it all changed with 9/11. When 9/11 took place, there was a huge change, and people suddenly started looking at Islam as a religion of terrorism. And however, there were lots of people who wanted to also find out what Islam truly stood for. And a number of them came to me as well to say, please tell us something about Islam. And what I said to them is, before I can tell you about Islam, you have to understand what is faith. Faith is a code of conduct that defines the rules by which you can have a peaceful and harmonious society. And if you all believe in the same God, it is not possible that God sent a different message to Prophet Ibrahim, a different message to Prophet Moses, a different message to Prophet Jesus, and a different message to Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon them all. The fundamental message is exactly the same. But as humanity progressed, God reformed the message slightly, but retaining the fundamental message. And we believe that the Holy Quran was the last word from God Almighty, and therefore the most comprehensive message to mankind. So it is not possible that the message that God sent to humanity at the end talked about terrorism, talked about hate. It could only talk about love and peace and how to achieve that. Now, the second thing is that a lot of people are moving away from faith and from God. But if you really think about it, you must question what is the purpose of our life on this earth. It cannot be that we educate ourselves so that we can have good employment, so that we can have a big house, a big car, and have 2 or 3 holidays in a year. If that was the purpose of our creation, then we would be living a very shallow life. The purpose of our creation has to be greater than that. And the purpose of our creation is to supplicate to our Creator and win His pleasure. And the only way we're going to find internal peace, which is linked very much to peace in society, is when we develop the relationship with our Creator. And once we have developed that relationship with the Creator, and we are at peace with ourselves, we will be at peace with His creation, and we will be at peace with other human beings. And that is the only way to achieve peace in our society. We talk about justice being very important to achieving peace, which is absolutely correct. But before we can achieve justice, we have to be at peace with ourselves and and God's creation. And that is the fundamental thing that we should be looking at in the society today. In this respect, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, delivered a landmark historic address in the heart of Berlin entitled Islam and Europe, Clash of Civilizations. During this conference, His Holiness addressed head-on the common allegation the presence of Islam and Muslims was a threat to Western civilization and culture. In a reference to the decline of moral values, as I mentioned earlier, the morality is very much linked to faith. His Holiness stated, "As a Muslim leader, I believe you should protect your heritage and culture by focusing your energies on arresting the decline in religion and bringing people back towards faith and belief, whether they're Christians, Jews, or of other faith." And then His Holiness further stated that it should not be that in the name of advancement, those values and moral standards that have been a part of our society for many centuries are suddenly abandoned. He went on also to state that contrary to the media projection, Islam indeed is a peaceful religion, free from any sense of compulsion or force. In chapter 2, verse 257, the Holy Quran has categorically stated that there should be no compulsion in the matter of religion. Therefore, there is no need for non-Muslims to fear the Muslims, and that Muslims will try to forcefully spread their belief or impose their views on this part of the world. The hateful ideology of the tiny minority of the so-called Muslims who have adopted extremism bears no correlation with the teachings of the Holy Quran. So by looking at the Holy Quran and the practice of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, we can find the true path towards peace. The true and honest teachings of Islam are the ones that strive for peace and brotherhood and are not warped perception that a minority of militant terrorists are promoted in the mainstream. The majority of Muslims are peace-loving and kind, as they follow the example of the great founder, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And finally, I would just like to make mention of the last sermon that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, delivered. And he stated, "All mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab has any superiority over an Arab, nor also a white has no superiority over a black, nor a black has any superiority over white, except in piety and good actions." So our message this evening should be that if you're going to find peace, we have to return to faith, because that is where we will find our inner peace, which will lead us to a peace with Allah's creation and the society that we live in. My prayers are that may God help us in achieving this in our lifetime. It's very, very important for our future generations that we leave a world full of hope and peace for them, and not one of conflict and disaster, as we sometimes unfortunately see in our current society. May Allah bless you all. Once again, I'd like to thank the organizers, PAAMA organization, for organizing such a lovely event. And please pray for all those people who work behind the scenes, including those people who are cooking the food tonight. These are all volunteers who are helping to achieve this. And finally, can I say thank you to all the people who've taken time out of their very busy schedule to be here this evening, particularly those who have traveled long distances from different continents to be here, just so that we can achieve peace in our society. May God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, revered President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, United Kingdom, Mr. Rafiq Hayat, for bringing the event to a very successful end. Yes, just before we go to the food, as Muslim, we began with the recitation from the Holy Quran, and we normally finish with a very silent prayer. And I'll then call on the revered Amir, a missionary Amir of the United Kingdom, Mr. Rafiq Hayat, to lead us in a silent prayer. And then we normally raise our hands in very silence to do that prayer. And then you also feel free to join us whichever way you want to do that. Mr. Rafiq Hayat.
Thank you very much. Will you please join me in silent prayer, please? Amen.
Thank you very much. If you could kindly just remain seated wherever you are, your food would be served to you just within the shortest possible time. We also have some feedback forms on the table just to get ourselves improving.